Every morning she'd arrive early to prepare the day's boat rentals, ensuring that each vessel was seaworthy and properly equipped for whatever adventure her customers had planned. Her expertise with marine safety was legendary among regular boaters. But when armed criminals threatened her marina, they discovered she had expertise with marine law enforcement too. Welcome to True Human Tales. Before we begin this powerful story of hidden courage and harbor heroism, tell me in the comments from which city in the world are you watching this video today. And if you believe stories like this deserve to be heard, hit that subscribe button to support the channel. Sunset Harbor Marina stretched along 2 miles of protected waterfront, its floating docks accommodating everything from small fishing boats to luxury yachts worth millions of dollars. The facility had operated for over 25 years, serving as both recreational boating hub and working marina for commercial fishing operations, charter services, and the Coast Guard auxiliary units that coordinated regional maritime safety operations. The marina's boat rental division occupied the main harbor master building, a weathered structure that had been renovated multiple times to accommodate growing demand from weekend boaters, fishing enthusiasts, and tourists who wanted to experience the region's coastal waters without owning their own vessels. The rental fleet included 37 boats ranging from small aluminum fishing boats to cabin cruisers capable of day-long excursions. For the past 13 years, that fleet had been managed by Carol Martinez, whose knowledge of both boats and local water conditions made her an invaluable resource for the marina's diverse clientele. At 57, Carol moved with the confident efficiency of someone who'd learned that maritime safety required both attention to detail and respect for conditions that could change from peaceful to dangerous without warning. Carol's daily routine began each morning at 6 a.m. with a complete inspection of the rental fleet, checking fuel levels, safety equipment, and mechanical systems that could affect both performance and passenger safety. She knew the maintenance history of every boat in her fleet, the weather patterns that made certain areas hazardous for inexperienced boaters, and the local regulations that governed everything from fishing licenses to navigation requirements. What made Carol exceptional wasn't just her mechanical knowledge or safety consciousness, though both were considerable, but her ability to match customers with boats that suited their experience level and planned activities. She could assess a renter's boating skills within minutes of conversation, determine exactly what type of vessel would provide both safety and enjoyment, and provide navigation advice that ensured successful trips even for first-time coastal boaters. Regular customers had developed genuine trust in Carol's judgment over the years, particularly the weekend fishing enthusiasts who depended on her recommendations for both boats and fishing locations. Captain Rodriguez, who ran a charter service from the marina, always consulted Carol about weather conditions and customer suitability before accepting bookings. The Davidson family appreciated Carol's patience in teaching their teenage children proper boat handling and safety procedures. Children were naturally fascinated by the boats and Carol's extensive knowledge of marine life and coastal navigation. She kept a collection of charts and identification guides in the rental office, always ready to help young boaters understand tides, weather signs, and the marine environment they'd be exploring. Parents appreciated how Carol's safety briefings were thorough without being intimidating, ensuring that family outings remained fun while minimizing risks. Carol's office was organized with maritime precision, rental agreements filed by date, weather monitoring equipment positioned for easy reference, and detailed logs of every boat's maintenance and usage history. Her radio equipment kept her in constant contact with Coast Guard operations, local harbor patrol units, and other marina facilities, creating a communication network that enhanced safety for all boaters in the region. What customers and marina management didn't know was that Carol's exceptional understanding of marine safety and local water conditions had been developed in contexts far more challenging than recreational boat rentals. Her ability to assess weather patterns, anticipate navigation hazards, and coordinate maritime operations came from 15 years with the Harbor Patrol Division, where she'd specialized in coastal security and marine law enforcement operations. Officer Carol Martinez had served from 1985 to 2000, working everything from routine safety inspections to complex investigations involving smuggling, piracy, and maritime terrorism threats. Her official Harbor Patrol record listed her specialty as coastal security, and marine law enforcement, but her actual experience included coordinating multi-agency operations against criminal enterprises that used recreational boating as cover for illegal activities ranging from drug trafficking to weapons smuggling. Carol had worked waters where legitimate recreational boating mixed with sophisticated criminal operations, where yacht clubs provided cover for money laundering, and where charter fishing trips masked surveillance activities by foreign intelligence services. Her expertise included identifying suspicious vessel behavior, coordinating responses to maritime emergencies that involved criminal elements, and maintaining security protocols that protected honest boaters without compromising their recreational freedom. Her transition to civilian marina work had been carefully chosen after experiences that had taught her to value the pure enjoyment that boating could provide when criminal elements weren't involved. Sunset Harbor Marina represented everything she'd learned to appreciate about maritime recreation. Families discovering coastal waters, fishing enthusiasts pursuing their passion, and boaters of all skill levels finding the peace and adventure that made water activities special. The marina's harbor master knew Carol was former harbor patrol, but had no idea of the scope of her experience with maritime criminal enterprises. Her job application listed her background as Marine Safety and Harbor Operations, which seemed perfectly suited for a rental position that required understanding both boat mechanics and water safety protocols. What they didn't know was that Carol's office included more than standard rental management equipment. The locked filing cabinet contained detailed assessments of suspicious boating activity in the regional waters, information she'd compiled by monitoring patterns that suggested potential criminal operations. Her radio system could access law enforcement frequencies in addition to standard marina communications, and her office included emergency protocols that went beyond typical rental operations. For 13 years, Carol had found deep satisfaction in her rental work. Helping people enjoy safe boating had gradually replaced the stress of pursuing those who exploited maritime activities for criminal purposes, and the steady rhythm of marina operations had allowed her to heal from years of hypervigilance and threat assessment. Her greatest pleasure came from watching families return from successful day trips and seeing novice boaters develop the skills and confidence that made them lifelong enthusiasts. Saturday, August 17th, was a perfect day for boating. Calm seas, clear visibility, and the kind of light offshore breeze that made both fishing and recreational cruising ideal. The marina was operating at full capacity with all 37 rental boats reserved and additional customers waiting for afternoon availability as earlier renters returned from morning excursions. Carol had arrived at 5:30 a.m. to prepare for the busy day ahead, ensuring that each boat was fueled, equipped, and ready for the diverse activities her customers had planned. By 8 a.m., the marina was bustling with boaters preparing for fishing trips, family cruises, and diving expeditions, creating the energetic atmosphere that made summer weekends at coastal marinas special. During the midday changeover period when morning renters were returning and afternoon customers were preparing to depart, Carol was updating her rental logs when she noticed them. 4 men moving around the marina docks with the purposeful navigation that Carol's trained eye recognized as surveillance rather than legitimate boating activity. They wore marine clothing that was expensive enough to blend in, but new enough to suggest recent purchase rather than experienced use, and they moved with the coordinated precision that Carol's law enforcement experience had taught her to identify as tactical positioning. Carol's threat assessment protocols, refined through years of identifying criminal activity in maritime environments, began processing danger indicators with automatic precision. The men's behavior patterns were wrong. They were studying dock layouts and boat capabilities rather than preparing for recreational activities. Their attention was focused on higher value vessels and marina security positions rather than the rental boats that should have been their interest as potential customers. Carol continued her normal rental duties without changing her professional demeanor, but her awareness shifted into the heightened state that had once made her invaluable to harbor patrol operations, where criminal enterprises used legitimate boating as cover for illegal activities. She mentally mapped the marina's layout, noting customer concentration areas, valuable vessel locations, and the communication systems that could coordinate response to developing maritime threats. The men positioned themselves strategically around the main dock areas where boat owners and renters were preparing for afternoon activities. Their placement suggested preparation for robbery operations rather than recreational boating, and their synchronized timing indicated coordination that Carol recognized from criminal enterprises that targeted marinas during peak activity periods when cash transactions and valuable personal property were concentrated. At 1:23 p.m., during the busiest period when rental changeovers brought maximum customer activity to the marina, Carol's suspicions were confirmed when she observed one of the men signal to a boat that had arrived at the outer harbor with engines running, the maritime equivalent of a getaway vehicle positioned for rapid departure. The coordination suggested a planned operation rather than opportunistic crime. Carol realized she was witnessing the preparation phase of what maritime law enforcement called a marina robbery operation, an attack designed to target boat owners and rental customers during peak activity periods when substantial cash and valuable personal property would be concentrated in predictable locations. Sunset Harbor Marina was perfect for such an operation. Wealthy boat owners, cash-heavy rental transactions, and security protocols designed for marine safety rather than criminal defense. As Carol prepared to coordinate with law enforcement, she observed the first man produce what appeared to be a compact pistol from beneath his marine jacket. The sight of weapons in an environment where families were enjoying boating activities triggered Carol's protective instincts with an intensity that transcended her 13 years of peaceful rental work. That's when Carol stopped being a boat rental clerk and became a harbor patrol officer again. Carol's response combined the maritime law enforcement expertise she'd developed during her harbor patrol career with intimate knowledge of the marina's layout and operations that she'd acquired through 13 years of daily management. Her first priority was protecting the boaters and marina customers who had no experience with the kind of criminal targeting that Carol had spent years preventing in similar facilities. The marina's public address system, which Carol had access to through her rental management responsibilities, became the primary tool for coordinating customer protection. Her voice, calm and authoritative despite the circumstances, directed boaters toward predetermined safe areas using the same maritime crowd control techniques she'd developed for managing much larger and more dangerous situations during her law enforcement career. Carol's service weapon, a Sig Sauer P226 that had been her sidearm throughout her harbor patrol service, came from the locked cabinet in her office with the familiar weight of a tool she'd hoped never to need again in a recreational marina environment. Her position in the rental office provided excellent tactical oversight of the main dock areas, and her years of daily observation had given her intimate knowledge of every sight line and defensive position around the facility. The armed men had expected to control a group of recreational boaters whose compliance would provide easy access to valuable boats, cash transactions, and personal property. What they encountered instead was organized resistance delivered by someone who understood both the tactical requirements of maritime law enforcement and the specific layout and operations of the facility they'd chosen to attack. Carol's harbor patrol training enabled her to coordinate protective positions while simultaneously managing customer evacuation through routes that took advantage of the marina's design features. The docks themselves became tactical assets, providing elevated positions and clear sight lines that allowed Carol to maintain defensive control while protecting evacuating boaters. The boats that comprised her rental fleet became improvised barriers and communication platforms, as Carol used her intimate knowledge of each vessel's capabilities to create defensive positions and coordinate with responding law enforcement. Her maritime radio expertise allowed her to communicate simultaneously with Coast Guard units, local police, and harbor patrol vessels that were responding to the developing situation. Carol's radio communications, honed through years of coordinating complex maritime operations, provided responding agencies with real-time intelligence about suspect positions, vessel capabilities, and civilian locations. Her familiarity with multi-agency maritime protocols ensured that emergency responders could coordinate their approach without confusion or friendly fore incidents that could endanger the customers she was protecting. Within 14 minutes, the threat was neutralized, the marina was secure, and the 150-plus boaters and customers who had come to enjoy recreational activities were safe from an attack that could have resulted in significant casualties and property losses. Carol's immediate threat recognition and tactical response had prevented what would have become a high-profile maritime crime that could have devastated the region's recreational boating industry. The evacuation procedures that Carol coordinated proved their effectiveness as customers were moved to safety with minimal panic and no civilian casualties. Boaters later described how marina staff had remained calm and professional throughout the crisis, managing the situation with the competence and expertise that they expected from professional maritime operations. The investigation revealed the scope of the planned operation, a sophisticated robbery designed to target multiple marinas during peak boating season, when wealthy boat owners would be concentrated with valuable vessels and substantial cash for fuel and equipment purchases. The criminals had researched marina operations, security protocols, and law enforcement response times with the thoroughness of professionals planning maritime crimes. What they hadn't researched was Carol Martinez. The Coast Guard investigators who debriefed Carol were familiar with harbor patrol operations and understood immediately why the attack had failed so completely. 15 years of experience with maritime law enforcement, combined with 13 years of intimate knowledge of the specific facility and its operations, had created the perfect combination of expertise and local knowledge. The media wanted to interview her about her transition from law enforcement to marina work, about the criminal threats that target recreational boating, about the moment when her two careers had intersected to protect the kind of people she'd spent years learning to keep safe on the water. Carol politely declined all interview requests, preferring to maintain focus on the positive aspects of recreational boating rather than the criminal elements that threatened those activities. Sunset Harbor Marina resumed normal operations the following week with enhanced security protocols and a new understanding of the woman who managed their boat rentals. Carol returned to her office with the same quiet professionalism she'd always shown, helping customers enjoy safe boating with the same dedication that had made her invaluable to both her law enforcement career and her marina work. The only visible change was a small commendation from marina management, thanking her for extraordinary service during a security incident. Carol had requested that it not mention specific details, preferring to be remembered for the thousands of safe boating experiences she'd facilitated rather than the one day when her other skills had been needed. Because some people spend their careers protecting others on the water, and when they transition from enforcement to service, their protective instincts remain unchanged. Carol had spent 15 years protecting recreational boaters from those who would exploit maritime activities for criminal purposes, and 13 years helping those same people enjoy the freedom and adventure that made boating special. The waters were the same, but the mission had evolved: provide service and safety that allows others to enjoy maritime recreation while standing ready to defend them from those who would cause harm. So now I ask you, have you ever met someone like Carol? Someone who seemed like just a friendly boat rental clerk until the moment they revealed the depths of their expertise and dedication? Someone whose daily presence made you feel safer without knowing why? Tell me in the comments, where are you watching from today, and share their story with us. And if you believe stories like this need to be heard, hit that subscribe button and help us make sure they are. We publish human stories that matter every single week. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next story.